2 Esdras 11 verse 7-9 And I beheld, and, lo, the eagle rose upon her talons, and spake to her feathers, saying, Watch not all at once, sleep every one in his own place, and watch by course. But let the heads be preserved for the last. 2 Esdras 12 verse 22-23 And whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. In his last days shall the Most High raise up 3 kingdoms, and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth. The heads are explicitly stated as kingdoms, with the rest of the relevant text strongly implying the feathers and heads are of the same essence and nature. They're all kingdoms, the dominant powers of their time. The eagle represents Western civilization throughout the age from Rome. Rome has now morphed into westernized nations of today that are built on the foundations of Roman civics. Another way to view this is the spread of Christianity, whether Catholicism, Protestantism or Orthodox, because naturally Roman civics spread along with Christianity as part and parcel of Western civilization expansion and growth. In the peculiar case of the eagle with its feathers and head, after the 3rd feather for every feather or head thereafter, where there exists a monarchy. In all cases the monarchy's lineage can be traced back to the nobility within the geographical regions of the Carolingian Empire, what can be considered the first iteration of the Holy Roman Empire. I'm no historian. And neither did I live during the historical times of Europe to experience the nuances and power plays for who exactly all the 12 feathers were. 1 or 2 feathers presented here may possibly be off, but it does give you a good idea on who they all were. 2 Esdras 12 verse 13-16 Behold, the days will come, that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. In the same shall 12 kings reign, one after another. Whereof the second shall begin to reign, and shall have more time than any of the 12. And this do the 12 wings signify, which thou sawest. 2 Esdras 11 verse 12-19 And I looked, and, behold, on the right side there arose 1 feather, and reigned over all the earth, and so it was, that when it reigned, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more, so the next following stood up. And reigned, and had a great time, and it happened, that when it reigned, the end of it came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more. Then came there a voice unto it, and said, Hear thou that hast borne rule over the earth so long. This I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more, there shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither unto the half thereof. Then arose the 3rd, and reigned as the other before, and appeared no more also. So went it with all the residue one after another, as that every one reigned, and then appeared no more. 1st feather was the Roman Republic. 2nd feather that reigned longer than the rest was the Roman Empire, this includes Byzantine. The 9th century saw the 3rd feather. The Frankish Empire under the Carolingians saw Charlemagne crowned emperor of the Romans by the Pope. 4th feather was the Holy Roman Empire under Otto I that emerged from East Francia after the split of the Frankish Empire during the 10th century. With decentralization forces at play in the Holy Roman Empire, the 5th feather was most likely the Angevins, who were more powerful than the French crown in the 12th to 13th century. In the early 13th century saw the 6th feather that was the French kingdom under Philip II of Capet, who took back French control from the Angevins. 15th century saw the consolidation of power with the French kingdom united, occurring along with the French Renaissance under the House of Valois after the 100-Year War was the 7th feather. 8th feather saw the Spanish Golden Age under the Habsburgs during the 16th century. The latter half of the 16th century the 9th feather was the Austrian Habsburgs branch after the Habsburg split, whom also had huge influence over the Holy Roman Empire as the reigning dynasty and held sway over vast territories of Central Europe. 17th century, the 10th feather saw France under the successful reign of Louis XIV of the House of Bourbon. 11th feather was the Swedish Empire with its formidable military that dominated the Baltics during the latter half of the 17th century. After defeating the Swedes in the Great Northern War, the 12th feather was the Russian Empire that saw them become a major influential power in Europe during the 18th century. 2 Esdras 12 verse 17-18 As for the voice which thou heardest speak, and that thou sawest not to go out from the heads but from the midst of the body thereof, this is the interpretation. that after the time of that kingdom there shall arise great strivings, and it shall stand in peril of failing, nevertheless it shall not then fall, but shall be restored again to his beginning. This is where the prophecy becomes clearer. The time of great striving that the kingdom shall stand in peril of falling but is restored to its beginning is none other than the waves of the age of revolution that occurred in Europe and the Western world between the late 18th to the mid-19th century. The voice came from the body but not from the head, the position of authority of the eagle, because it was a populous uprising and revolt that sought reform and change in governance, which culminated and ended with the revolutions of 1848 being ultimately suppressed with the old existing power structures restored. 2 Esdras 11 verse 20-21 Then I beheld, and, lo, in process of time the feathers that followed stood up upon the right side, that they might rule also. And some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more. For some of them were set up, but ruled not. 2 Esdras 12 verse 19-21 And whereas thou sawest the 8 small under feathers sticking to her wings, this is the interpretation. That in him there shall arise 8 kings, whose times shall be but small, and their years swift. And 2 of them shall perish, the middle time approaching, for shall be kept until their end begin to approach, but 2 shall be kept unto the end. The 8 little feathers didn't establish their rule, thus their times were short and swift, and their power structures were almost immediately dissolved after being on the losing end of war. So who were the first of the 2 little feathers that perished during or nearing the middle times? The first little feather is the first French Empire under Napoleon I that existed for only 10 years, from 1804 to 1814 and briefly for 100 days in 1815. The defeat at Waterloo ultimately sealed the empire's fate. The second little feather was the Second French Empire under Napoleon III, who sought to emulate his uncle. The empire existed for 18 years between 1852 to 1870, with its reign ending after its defeat during the Franco-Prussian War. 2 Esdras 11 verse 24-27 Then saw I also that 2 little feathers divided themselves from the 6, and remained under the head that was upon the right side, for the 4 continued in their place. And I beheld, and, lo, the feathers that were under the wing thought to set up themselves and to have the rule. And I beheld, and, lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more. And the second was sooner away than the first. The third little feather was the North German Confederation, formed in 1866, which later expanded and continued as the German Empire as it incorporated the southern German states in 1871, lasted for 52 years until 1918. The fourth little feather was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, existing for 51 years between 1867 to 1918. Both of these little feathers were dissolved after their defeat in World War I, with the latter little feather, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, ending sooner on the 31st of October, 1918, while the prior little feather, the German Empire, faced its dissolution 9 days later on the 9th of November 1918. And so the second was sooner away than the first. 2 Esdras 11 verse 28 And I beheld, and, lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign. Existing for 21 years from 1922 to 1943, the fifth little feather was Fascist Italy. The sixth little feather, existing only for 12 years, was Nazi Germany. Both of these feathers faced their dissolution after their defeats during World War II. 2 Esdras 11 verse 29-35 And when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that were at rest, namely, it that was in the midst, for that was greater than the 2 other heads. And then I saw that the 2 other heads were joined with it. And, behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the 2 feathers under the wing that would have reigned. But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression, and it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. And after this I beheld, and, lo, the head that was in the midst suddenly appeared no more, like as the wings. But there remained the 2 heads, which also in like sort ruled upon the earth, and over those that dwelt therein, and I beheld, and, lo, the head upon the right side devoured it that was upon the left side. 2 Esdras 12 verse 26-30 And whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signifieth that one of them shall die upon his bed, and yet with pain. For the 2 that remain shall be slain with the sword. For the sword of the one shall devour the other, but at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. And whereas thou sawest 2 feathers under the wings passing over the head that is on the right side, it signifieth that these are they, whom the highest hath kept unto their end, this is the small kingdom and full of trouble, as thou sawest. The middle head that was greater than the others, who had governance of the world more than all the prior wings that dies in bed, was the British Empire. The left head is America, the right head was the Soviet Union, now the Russian Federation. All 3 joined and moved as an alliance to defeat the 2 little feathers during World War II. Notice the feathers are only mentioned to rise on the right side of the eagle, no mention of any feathers on the left. This is because the right side represents the eastern hemisphere while the left represents the west. The end will see Russia the right head devouring America the left head with 2 more little feathers to go after Russia itself is defeated.